It's time to have your say. Welcome back to the Q&A, answering your questions in the wrestling community once again for another episode of Ask SCW, starting straight after this. So welcome back to the channel, and this week just may have the most questions that's been thrown in by people watching ever. So thanks to everyone that's been getting involved with your questions, and to everyone as well that watches here on SCW and supports the channel as well. Many great questions on the way as always. We're talking WWE, NXT, AEW, Impact, and much more. And if you want to get involved on the next episode, then you can follow me on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all coming up on your screen right now. Or you can even drop a comment here on YouTube, leave hashtag AskSCW and know to include it in the next video. Without further ado, let's get in with our first question this week. And that comes from Mark Q World Order. What do you think of Kenny Omega's run as Impact World Champion? And do you think it elevated the Impact World title in the eyes of non-Impact fans? What would you have done different and why? Great question to kick things off. Kenny Omega, of course, has been Impact World Champion since Rebellion. I must admit, the actual time of him being champion has been a bit mediocre in my personal opinion, but as you say, from outside of Impact eyes, I do think Kenny Omega has done a lot for the Impact Championship and for the Impact brand as well. Even if you could turn around and say perhaps his time on AEW and the times on Dynamite hasn't really done as much for the brand either. It feels that this week on Rampage is the most eyes, or even Dynamite as well, has been the most eyes on Impact Championships since this Forbidden Door started and this relationship has worked well. We've seen Kenny come out perhaps holding the championship, but nothing's really been emphasized as important as the AEW championship, and arguably it probably shouldn't. But at the same time, to have those many championships, I would like to see more video packages from AEW to say Kenny Omega had won these championships. But for me, how would I have booked it differently? I would turn around and say that perhaps to begin with, I wouldn't have had Kenny go straight for the championship. He would have had to have earned his run to be the champion in Impact Wrestling, in my opinion, to at least gone through 2 or 3 of the bigger names to then get to Rich Swann. I think they rushed that at the start, in my personal opinion, and to then at that point, you know, we see matches with the likes of Moose, which felt a bit mediocre, although I did like that it was done in the, you know, the Daily's place for Dynamite, sort of the home setting for AEW, rather than always coming to the Impact Zone. I liked that aspect and element. I just think we could have got more as Kenny Omega as Impact Champion. I think the other thing that really is suffering from an Impact fan perspective is that most of Kenny Omega's time as Impact World Champion wasn't in front of fans, and I think that's a bit of a disappointment if you are an Impact fan and knowing that he was in the Impact Zone as your world champion, or even just as a superstar. But perhaps this isn't perhaps the end of Kenny Omega with Impact Wrestling. I expect they'll probably do a bit more with this, and I look at it overall. I mean, if you look at the buy rates for pay-per-view and stuff like that, you know, Rebellion was one of the highest that was done, you know, for the longest time for Impact Wrestling, so that was definitely a big plus, and Kenny Omega was a big reason to do with that, so you can't really take that away from him. But what I would say as well is it would have been nice as an Impact fan to have seen him lose the championship to an Impact superstar under the Impact banner, rather than actually losing in AEW on the first episode of Rampage. But on the flip side of that, and like you said, for non-Impact fans, to get this on AEW's Rampage show, the first one, it's definitely going to have a higher viewing rate than what you would get on a regular Impact show. Perhaps a pay-per-view, for example, could bring in those sort of rates to see Kenny Omega drop the championship, but on an occasion like this, more people would see this would get more eyes to the prize, and this is what the Forbidden Door should have been doing for Impact all along, with Christian Cage now getting this momentum, getting this victory, becoming the new Impact World Champion. This would give people a reason to go, well, what's next for Kenny Omega in AEW? What's going to happen now with the Impact Championship? And people perhaps say, well, Christian, knowing he's going to be on there next week, people want to tune in. Will Kenny Omega go there to try and win the championship back? There's a fallout, there's a reason to want to continue this storyline, and there's a reason for a viewer to be gripped to say, what's the next chapter? So for that reason, Kenny Omega has done great things, but could it have been better? I do feel so, and I always felt that Kenny Omega should have had that championship to at least Bound for Glory. It seemed like it was a bit early, but with the current scenario, the way that things were put together, you know, putting this match here, it was a risky move to do so, because for AEW they have the same match going for All Out for them for the AEW Championship. So for that reason, reason, Christian had to look strong. Christian couldn't go in, lose this match and then go for the AEW Championship. That didn't really say a lot, so it was the right result. So yeah, it was kind of interesting, it was exciting, but for Kenny Omega, overall, I would turn around saying a good world champion. Won't be seen as the greatest Impact World Champion ever, but has he helped that brand over time? Certainly with pay-per-view buy rates, certainly yes, and now with this, I think from a Fallout perspective, I think Impact could get a bit of rub of what's happened this past Friday on Rampage. Next question comes from Wrestling by Waldridge. Do you agree with Christian beating Kenny Omega for the Impact title before their next match for the AEW World title? And do you think Tanahashi will be the next New Japan wrestler to wrestle in AEW? Well, as I said in the last question, Christian had to look strong going to this AEW bout. The question is, should this match have been put together to begin with? I think got a lot of people talking and a lot of buzz, but you are giving away on free TV your AEW Championship match for the Impact Championship ahead of time. So it's kind of almost, why do you need to see this match on pay-per-view? I guess the thing is, you've seen him do it for the Impact Championship. Can he now do it for the AEW World Championship? And that's going to be the big question. What happens next with Kenny Omega? I mean, we're going to see a different Kenny Omega going into this match. You can add some interesting narrative. Of course, he was the belt collector with lots of gold. He's now lost one. Does he become vulnerable? So there are different twists and turns of why this could turn out to be a positive thing rather than just being, well, we've seen this match before. It's not kind of the same as the WWE's Contenders match where you see the match before pay-per-view already on TV, because why would you need to see it a second time? It seems a little bit ludicrous. So for me personally, this has worked, even though there is a risk and elements of why I could see why some people would feel that it wouldn't. As for Tanahashi, of course, he's now the new IWGP United States Heavyweight Champion. Of course, that is the one title he had not held in New Japan. Beat Lance Archer for it at Resurgence, who Archer only held the belt, I believe, for something like 24 days. Jon Moxley has said outright that he wants to face Tanahashi, or said that Tanahashi had been ducking him, and now that he wasn't, he's going to move on to see other people he could face in New Japan. I think there's a chance that we could see this match in New Japan, but also a chance we could get it at All Out, and that would be quite exciting because Jon Moxley right now doesn't really have a direction going into that AEW pay-per-view, so this would be quite awesome if that match was to be put together. Next question from Dan Williams. Do you think Christian will be on Impact every week now he's champion? Yes, I do. I think that Christian, while he holds this championship, will be going every single week to Impact Wrestling. Now remember, when Kenny Omega won the championship, he didn't even want to be there. He wanted his celebration to be on Zoom, and of course Impact took exception to that, wanted Kenny Omega to come to the arena and actually be on Impact each and every week, which of course he was very reluctant to do as a heel. Now a babyface from AEW has that championship, and of course someone that was formerly an Impact World Champion 15 years ago, Christian will have the respect for the company and will be there on a weekly basis while he holds that championship. So yes, I do expect that Christian will be on Impact Wrestling, as he said he will be this week and every week while he holds that World Championship. Next question comes from Dylan Ketchum. Since Christian Cage is the new Impact Champion, is this the beginning of the downfall of Kenny Omega? Well, that's the storyline they could portray here. As we're going to go on to the next question momentarily, Kenny Omega hasn't lost the AAA Mega Championship, of course, after Triple Mania, which I thought he was going to do. But what I would say is that, of course, there's still going to be a seed of doubt here. I mean, the fact is that Kenny Omega has lost a championship to Christian Cage. Now will be, can he lose the other one? That's going to be the story going into the pay-per-view. So will it be the full downfall of Kenny Omega? I personally don't think so. If you want my actual prediction, I think that this AEW All Out will become champion versus champion, title for title. Kenny Omega will have the chance to win the Impact Championship back at All Out, which I actually think, if I had to predict right now, I think he will do, and he'll have all the gold once again. I don't believe Christian Cage will be a long-term Impact World Champion. Next question from Beyond the Ring podcast, asking if I see Kenny Omega losing the AAA title at Triple Mania. That didn't happen, and the AEW World title to Christian at All Out, as there's been some talk that due to his injury and health problems, Kenny Omega is going to drop those titles. How much do I see this coming to fruition? Well, for the meantime, if there is any talk of that going on, I don't see Kenny Omega taking a break yet. That's what I would say, especially with the big rumours of debuts, of course, CM Punk coming in and Bryan Danielson. I can see Kenny Omega actually sticking around for a while longer, and the fact that he also retained the AAA Mega Championship as well suggests that he will be going to do more dates in Mexico in the near future. And with, of course, as well, AEW All Out, I don't expect him to lose his championship to Christian Cage. Christian did it once, I don't think it will happen again. Will Kenny Omega get a break at some point? I think he deserves one. He's been wrestling everywhere and doing everything for every company. Kenny Omega has been arguably one of the wrestlers of the year, putting standout performances everywhere that he has been. So for me personally, I think that he continues to hold still two championships right now. He could hold more gold again with Impact Wrestling. I think that he will win that championship again at some point if I had to predict it. And I think that with some big matches coming up, potentially with the likes of CM Punk, Bryan Danielson, let's not forget Hangman Page. That story does need to happen at some point, and I do think Hangman is the right person to win the AEW Championship next. I think those need to go on, and after that, that's when I think Kenny Omega could take a break, and that's when I think perhaps it will be a needed break at that point, and also gives a chance for the character to redevelop as well. Perhaps they can give the Elite a bit of something else to do as well. I think at that point it would be perfect. So yeah, I think it's a while to happen before anything happens without Kenny Omega. I think he keeps gold for quite a while still. One more question then on Christian and Kenny Omega. Then before we move on, we've got Skate Uphill. If Kenny is done with Impact and Christian retains against Brian Myers, of course now the #1 contender after winning the Battle Royal on Impact Wrestling this week, do you see anyone other than Moose taking the title from him? Well, that's certainly a potential, and that's the thing. When Brian Myers also won that Battle Royale on Impact this past week, that gave you the indication that a babyface would be the champion, because Brian Myers, the heel, going against Kenny Omega, champion heel, didn't really make sense. So yeah, Christian obviously now will have this championship probably defense at Emergence, I would expect. I expect him to retain the championship there, and Moose would be someone that could win the belt. I mean, it would be in a way a safe way for an Impact talent to win the championship without harming, you know, perhaps if you want the win-loss record of Kenny Omega. Christian Cage, of course, has been undefeated though since going to AEW, so this would still be a big deal if someone from Impact was to do so. I think Moose would be the right choice if it was Christian Cage as champion. If it's like I predict that Kenny Omega wins the belt back, I would like it to be Josh Alexander. I think he would be perfect at some point as an Impact World Champion if he's doing a great job as X Division Champion, and I think he could go one level up. But that's just my personal opinion. Of course, there's always other athletes like Ace Austin as well, I'm sure, would want to be in the mix further down the line, and it could even be more people from the Forbidden Door. We've seen the likes of Jay White, of course, in Impact Wrestling as well, and also a Finn Juice as well. So I mean, let's see what happens. There could be lots of different potentials from all sorts of different companies, but I mean, Moose is a great shout. I thought to give one, would like to see Josh Alexander. Just a fan, Noah Foster in House of a Snail. Great to have a question from you. Of course, No DQ contributor, and as well as that, got his own YouTube channel as well. Could we see a Deonna Purrazzo and Britt Baker confrontation happening at AEW All Out to set up a match for Bound for Glory? I'd personally love to see it. I think it'd be awesome. It's a dream match in the wrestling community right now. Deonna Purrazzo against Britt Baker. You know, Impact versus AEW. We've had it for the men's division. Why not have it for the women's division? Deonna Purrazzo has said as well this past week that unless Tony Khan picks up the phone to call her in, she's not interested in predicting what's going to happen elsewhere in the Forbidden Door. I feel this is the first taste and flavour we have of potentially getting Deonna Purrazzo to do that. She's going everywhere else as well. She's gone to, you know, to AAA and to win the Women's Championship over there. She's going to go then to be on Empower for NWA as well, to compete over there to defend the Knockouts Championship there. Why not go for the AEW Women's Championship? Maybe she could become the belt collector of her own. Deonna Purrazzo right now, long may she reign. She's in a league of her own, but of course, Dr. Britt Baker, D.M.D, she was in Britsburg this week, showing she is also in a league of her own. It does feel like the biggest women's match possible anywhere outside of WWE right now. I personally would love to see it. I would hope it would happen, but yeah, this is one where I want to get everyone else involved. Let me know in the comments below. Do you want to see Deonna Purrazzo and Britt Baker have a confrontation at All Out and perhaps set up for Bound for Glory? Because that would be great for Impact Wrestling. Let's not forget Impact as well. They have promoted Bound for Glory of having all the promotions under one roof, which of course is themselves, AEW, New Japan and AAA, all under one roof for what seems to be some sort of supercard. And Noah, I think it's a fantastic suggestion you put there, my friend. Renegade Ryan with the next questions now. What do I think of AEW signing Jamie Hayter and Fuego del Sol? Two really good, impactful signings. I mean, Fuego del Sol, I mean, I feel he's been around forever anyway with Dark and Dark Elevation, obviously doing a lot of those matches there. Apparently his win-loss record isn't great, and I didn't really expect him to have much of an impact against Miro. I actually like the way they booked it though. It was very 1-2-3 kick and Razor Ramon from like 1993. Had a very near-fall moment where you kind of felt, could it happen? And then Miro just dominated from there, and it kind of went back to normality from that point. So yeah, for me, Fuego del Sol, it looks like a good in-ring talent. Obviously, it's a big deal as well for him to be a part of AEW going forward, for, you know, signed a contract and being there. I'm sure he's probably had one signed for a while, but it's great for that fan moment, kind of like what they did with the Cruiserweight Classic with Cedric Alexander for WWE back in the day, with Triple H coming out to kind of, you know, show that this wasn't the last you're going to see of him. So I think this was a really cool moment. I mean, Miro had to remain TNT champion. That would have been, would have been a really big mistake if he'd have lost the belt to Fuego del Sol. So this for me was really well booked and really well executed on Rampage on Friday night. As for Jamie Hayter, for me, I was shocked when I see her come back. It's been 2 years since I've seen her, and she looks very different as well, doesn't she? But I know she's a great worker. She's great on the mic as well. She's got a lot to offer AEW, and of course, if there's one area of the roster I still want to see improvements, it is the women's division. And seeing this here, that looks like she's going to be backing up Britt Baker as well. Going to see if that's going to be some sort of team, some sort of stable, whether they're just watching each other's back. There's definitely a lot of storyline narrative potentials that we could get from this. So yeah, I'm interested to see where it goes, and perhaps maybe long term it could even lead to Britt Baker versus Jamie Hayter, which I would be quite keen on seeing. WrestleTron with the next question now. Who do you think Miro will be facing at All Out? His pick is Sammy Guevara. A good pick, that one as well, with Sammy, because of course he's got his match with Shawn Spears this week. That rivalry perhaps may be about to wrap up. That would free Sammy for that position. I mean, I always thought perhaps someone like Jungle Boy perhaps could be good, because they like to get these sort of guys on pay-per-view, don't they? Jungle Boy doesn't really have a direction right now, although he is going for the AEW World Tag Team Championships this upcoming week on Dynamite. I personally don't think they're going to win the championships, if I'm going to be brutally honest. Orange Cassidy could be another one that could be in that spot. I wouldn't be surprised if that was to go down. So if I had to give one name at this particular point, I'll go Jungle Boy, but a part of me feels that any of those names could be in the mix there. I wouldn't be surprised whoever goes against Miro All Out. I can't see him winning at this stage of the game. Miro's on a different level right now. It will be game over. Straight as Josh with the next question now. If and when CM Punk returns, fingers crossed it's at AEW Rampage this upcoming Friday, what theme do you think he should return with? His AFI ROH theme, his This Fire Burns theme, or Cult of Personality? For me, Cult of Personality is the one, isn't it? I mean, to be fair, if you hear that start of that song go off, the place is going to go electric. And I believe Living Colour also have followed AEW on Twitter, as well as CM Punk doing so also. So for me, that's the one that I think will happen. It's the one that personally is my favourite. I mean, it's the one I could probably still sing along to this day, even though we've not seen CM Punk in a WWE ring for a long, long time, or a wrestling ring in general. And of course, he did even take it with him to the UFC. So that'll be my prediction. He'll take it to AEW, and to be honest, it's the one I want to see as well. Next question is coming from Noob and Co. What are your thoughts on Shinsuke Nakamura becoming a two-time Intercontinental Champion, and who will he face at SummerSlam? Is Sasha Banks forming a faction with Carmella and Zelina Vega? And what are your thoughts on the first episode of AEW Rampage? Let's start with AEW Rampage, shall we? And to be fair, I thought it was a very quick, fun show. I like the fact the show is only 1 hour long. Now, of course, yes, watching at the same time as when SmackDown is on, it does become 3 hours of watching wrestling again on a Friday night, which personally I feel I could do without. But Rampage as a show itself, I think was fun. I think the fact we had a lot of focus on wrestling, a couple of moments to get characters over as well, I thought was done very, very well. And Rampage as a show, I think needs to remain 1 hour. You can get so much of a fast, impactful show in 1 hour than you can get out of perhaps maybe a lot of quantity from a 2-3 hour show, if you look at perhaps say like Monday Night Raw, for example. So for me, big fan of Rampage. I love the fact there was emphasize of importance as well with championship matches this week. Rumours are next week we've got CM Punk coming next week, so lots of things to look forward to. This feels like it could be a big deal very quickly. Almost gives me the vibes of watching an early Monday Nitro, so that's how I kind of feel after this first week of watching AEW Rampage. Let's switch things up to WWE then, and Shinsuke Nakamura becoming a 2-time Intercontinental Champion. I was pleased to see it, I'm not going to lie to you. Shin has got so much more over in 2021 with the tweak of the gimmick becoming King Nakamura, the fact as well that he's got Rick Boogs as well helping with the entrance, Pat McAfee going crazy on commentary every time he comes out. Personally, I'm loving what they're doing as a combinational thing, and Apollo Crews for me as Intercontinental Champion became a bit stale. I don't know, they're just, with the character, I enjoyed what it was going with up to WrestleMania. I do feel the run as IC champion has been a bit lackluster, especially since the program with Big E finished. It felt like there wasn't any further plans going forward for Apollo Crews. So for me, it felt like the right time to make the switch. I wonder what King Nakamura will do now as Intercontinental Champion, what sort of rivalries and programs he will go into. I sort of hope that perhaps maybe a program with Nakamura and Cesaro I think would be a lot of fun with them two against each other. So we'll have to wait and see what goes forth now for next for King Nakamura as IC champion. And as for the faction, interesting question, because this week, that kind of really didn't make any sense. No one was really getting on with, you know, Carmella, Zelina Vega, and Sasha Banks. Then all of a sudden, they're on the same page, taking out the SmackDown Women's Champion in Bianca Belair. Perhaps they think stronger as a unit rather than actually going for it divided. But the thing is, though, Sasha was sort of directing traffic, but as the show went off air, they weren't all standing together, which makes me think that if they are a faction, it's not been fully announced as of yet. But for me personally, I'm not against the idea of a stable. I think it could be quite fun. It gives Zelina and Carmella TV time, something to do. The only thing I would say at the same time, though, is that I feel that Bianca and Sasha will get a lot more mileage of their program if they continue one-on-one. And I do eventually want to see that Iron Man match as well for them at a future pay-per-view, which we probably won't get now at SummerSlam. It's far too close at this point now they've signed the contracts as well. A video of 2 parts this is because, well, we have a pool party starting next door, which criminally I wasn't invited to, by the way. A little bit upset about that, but I'll tell you what, we can do the rest of the video for you now inside. I'm going to kick off our next question now. Starting with LaDarius Brown, will we see Becky Lynch show up at SummerSlam? Really good question, this one. I really hope so, because I think Becky is needed in WWE now. Of course, rumours have suggested she would go to SmackDown. A part of me still hopes that she would go to Raw if she was to return. But WWE will probably want to counter some of these AEW debuts at some point, and probably the biggest name that could counter perhaps a CM Punk return to wrestling to AEW this week, I think would be Becky Lynch. That's probably the one name that's holding back. The thing with Becky Lynch, though, she has been teasing on every big show this year that she was going to be a part of it. You know, how many times can we be fooled? Am I going to be sucked in beforehand? We'll have to wait and see. I mean, Becky could just show up at any time, but I do think that when she does, she plans on making an impact and going straight back into the championship picture. So we'll have to wait and see what's going to go down. Will she turn up at SummerSlam? It's a big question. I don't really have the answer to you right now, but what I'd say is that it's certainly a possibility, and I think particularly on the Raw side, she's going to be needed sooner rather than later. I think it's all going to depend where she's going to fit in. If she doesn't come at SummerSlam, I expect that she will be back by the draft. Next question is from Lorenzo Carrillo. Which WWE main roster tag team would you like to see split up, and what possible scenarios would you like to see them in separately? And do you really think RK Bros are done for good, or do you think it's just bait to the fans? So if I was to split a tag team up, it would be the Raw Tag Team Champions, AJ Styles and Omos. I'm probably taking a small get-out clause here with that question, but for me, I feel that that partnership feels like it's run its course. I feel that we need AJ to get back into the singles division. I think he's kind of wasted in that tag team division. We're not seeing the best of the Phenomenal One. Probably his weakest, probably his weakest year in WWE, I would turn around and say, in the whole time he's been there, which goes to show as a credit, by the way, that AJ's still a champion. I'm still saying it's not good enough. That's how good of a run he's had since signing in 2016. But I want to see AJ get back to that. I want to see him get back to, towards the top end of the card. I even think perhaps even a babyface run could be work for AJ Styles at this point of the game, because I just think it would freshen things up for his character as well. Perhaps see Omos perhaps do the initial turn on AJ Styles and beat him in the singles match. Omos then can go from strength to strength. Maybe he can get a mouthpiece, a manager or something, just someone to be a manager to direct him in the right place at the right time, and we start using Omos in a singles match capacity, but perhaps not going straight into that main event picture. Even though he's beaten someone like AJ Styles, I still start him off slowly in the singles division and work his way up over perhaps a course of 3 to 6 months, perhaps even a year, before you get him towards that tail end of the picture. Because right now, Omos is still very green, and I think it would actually show if he was to put him in long, high-profile matches. You need to work to the guy's strengths. So I would do kind of similar to Braun Strowman back in 2016. Lots of squash matches, short matches, just show dominance until Omos feels ready to go for these longer matches in WWE. As for RK Bro, I do think it was a quite nice little teaser done this week. It's almost like Randy just being Randy. Did sort of console him afterwards, but Randy calls the shots, he makes the decisions. It's not RK Bro yet, but I do think they will win those tag team championships at SummerSlam, and of course that means then at that point I feel we'll get that big moment with fans. I think WWE wanted to hold off till fans were there, where Randy will accept the idea of RK Bro. I think when they win the tag titles, that will be the moment, and I think then we'll see a long, lengthy run as them as champions, and then they'll probably have a breakup towards WrestleMania season. I think that's where Riddle can get a big WrestleMania victory over Randy Orton. Anthony New with our next question now. Do you think NXT will be involved at Survivor Series this year? No, I don't think they will be. I think WWE, in my opinion, has learnt from their mistake of what they did a couple of years ago. They put NXT there to build them up and make them seem like a bigger brand, the third brand of WWE, bigger than AEW. They didn't do much in the fallout. Ultimately, NXT didn't win that Wednesday Night War. They didn't do anything to benefit with, you know, Raw and SmackDown afterwards, or wanting to go and get revenge on NXT. There wasn't even that transition of NXT superstars being called up, which were really that successful either. So I think that WWE's probably learned from this. If they're going to really repackage NXT, the best thing to do is really make them developmental and use it as a feeder system for Raw and SmackDown. So in that opinion, that would keep NXT fully away from Raw and SmackDown going forward. So no, I don't see them in Survivor Series this year. NXT Steve next for us now from Jonesy Chats Wrestling. On SmackDown this week, Seth mentioned about doing things for his family, and since Becky has had interactions with Edge in the past, could we possibly get Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch versus Edge and Beth Phoenix at some point in the future? What a great little match you could have just booked there. I love the idea of that being put together, because of course, yeah, Seth wanted to do things for his family. It would kind of build things in to get that sort of mixed tag team match to happen. As I said earlier in the video, Becky Lynch is rumored to actually return to SmackDown rather than go to Raw. This would be a natural program for her to come into. The only thing with it is that, of course, Seth Rollins is a heel, and Becky Lynch, of course, the man, that gimmick, she's going to come back as one of the biggest baby faces in the company, unless they go with that initial babyface push and do the big swerve and the heel turn and then make Becky Lynch the heel. The only thing I have against it though is I don't see WWE going with a heel Becky Lynch. She's too over as a babyface, has the markability factor to be the biggest star in the company, so I don't think it will happen, but as an idea I think it'd be amazing. The only way that I think this could work in a different direction is if you do the double turn with Edge and Seth Rollins. That way Seth Rollins transitions into a babyface, Edge is the heel, Beth Phoenix comes in then as a heel to, you know, back up Edge in this scenario. I think then that could work really, really well. Mike, a Tanhabs Mike, with the next two questions now. It's been reported that Roman Reigns has been doing unscripted promos for almost a year now. His promos are much better and believable. Should more top guys in WWE be able to do unscripted promos, as it would help their character? And question two, will Ilya Dragunov win the NXT UK title at TakeOver 36? If not, who will be the one that beats Volta for the NXT UK title? Two fascinating questions. Let's do NXT UK first, because we've got a big chunk of Roman Reigns questions on the way. I'm not sure if it's the right time that Dragunov wins that championship. It certainly was a bit of a weird dynamic having him lose on NXT this week and then almost be on top of Volta at the end of the show. Was a bit strange for my liking, but I think Dragunov will be the right guy to win that championship eventually, unless they've got someone that comes into NXT UK that could be, you know, a big guy that could win the championship. I still hope that perhaps one day we'd get the likes of Volta versus Finn Balor or a Drew McIntyre, or a match of that magnitude, but of course those superstars now, Drew and Finn, are on Raw and SmackDown, you know, respectively, so I don't see that anywhere in the near future. Volta is the most dominant champion in WWE right now, and I think looking at the NXT UK roster, I can't see anyone else that could do it than Dragunov. The only thing is, right now, I'm not sure if TakeOver 36 is the right place to do it. We'll have to wait and see, and I've still got another week to go of NXT TV before I make my full predictions. The predictions for NXT TakeOver 36 will be dropping on SCW in the week, so make sure to keep an eye out for those. And of course, SummerSlam will be coming as well. As for unscripted promos, I'm a big fan of them. Sink or swim, why not? Make sure if a superstar is comfortable doing unscripted stuff, can give them bullet points. Like you said, the character comes over a lot more believable. One of my favorite parts of WrestleMania this year was the amount of unscripted promos when that, you know, storm was happening and we had to delay the show by 30-40 minutes. I had to find a way to keep us entertained. So many unscripted promos given by different superstars. Some were better than others, arguably, but the characters were getting over in such a fun and unique way. You knew it was something special, it was something that was unplanned, so every moment felt really, really special. And right now, Roman's promos, they're on a different level to everybody else's in WWE especially. I enjoyed with Roman Reigns and John Cena what they did on SmackDown this week. Even if some of the stuff in there wasn't really true with the facts, but still, I still enjoyed what they brought to the table. So yeah, I hope that they do more of it going forward, because the Tribal Chief does a great job on it, and of course if he's doing a great job of it, hopefully WWE will have faith in other talents in making them able to do it. But I'm sure there are certain people who are able to do their own thing in WWE, but perhaps we're just not aware of it on the wrestling gossip that's going on throughout our community. OV from the Hard Hitting Wrestling Show, and of course his website you can see on the screen right now is hhwshow.com. Do you believe what Cena stated? Roman Reigns will beat my ass, but Reigns will lose, and there's nothing to do about that. And OV does also say, with that quote, do we see Baron Corbin, Finn Balor and Big E involved, with Big E cashing in and becoming the new Universal Champion? Fun facts all there. I think the most likely of those three superstars, if if any, would be Finn Balor, but I think that's been saved for the rivalry after SummerSlam. I believe Extreme Rules now is going to be that next pay-per-view. I do not believe the words that John Cena stated, and I will give one SummerSlam result away for you here today. John Cena, of course, yes, he is going to be part of SummerSlam, but I do think he's going back to Hollywood afterwards, so I don't believe that John Cena will be winning that championship. Yes, his ass will get beat. Yes, we'll get Super Cena and get that comeback, but I do think ultimately, end of the day, Roman Reigns will retain the Universal Championship. And I don't think Big E is cashing in at SummerSlam on the Universal Championship. More than likely, I could see him cashing in on the WWE Champion, but time will tell on that one at this moment. Ugliest Dragoon with the next question now. Do you think that we could see Cena win his 17th world title at SummerSlam? Well, I gave the prediction in the last one. I think Roman Reigns is going to retain, but I tell you what, Ric Flair, of course, now got his release from WWE, was a 16-time world champion. John Cena as well, a 16-time world champion. If John Cena is to break it, he needs to do it on a big platform, a big stage, and of course, SummerSlam would be the perfect big stage to do that. So, I mean, if they wanted to stick it to Ric Flair, and if they wanted to, you know, create history, it would be the right place to do it if they could get Big Match John to go on another pay-per-view. Maybe they could do Cena versus Reigns versus Balor in a triple threat match at the following pay-per-view, and that way Balor could still be involved. It would be interesting how they're going to go about it, but I stick to what I said in the previous question. I think Roman Reigns is retaining. If Cena is going to win a 17th world title, it's not happening at SummerSlam, in my opinion. Jamie, the controversial one, Holmes here. In 2017, John Cena flustered Roman Reigns so much before No Mercy that Roman Reigns forgot his line for his promo. As a callback 4 years later, then the promos are all shooting like back then, as we saw on SmackDown this week. Do you think that Roman Reigns will do the same to Cena? His promos are a lot better than they were in 2017. Well, it didn't happen with the face-off this week, did it? I mean, John Cena is a hard one to make forget lines, but I would agree with you. Roman Reigns is on a completely different level, and I do wish that this had been brought into this program. I think this is what would have made this storyline so much better going into SummerSlam. If we'd have seen, you know, rather than John Cena saying that Roman Reigns is a failed experiment over 10 years, it's no argument. The last 12 months, what Roman Reigns has been doing has worked, and it's worked extremely well. There is nothing better in WWE right now than Roman Reigns, even if you could turn around and say maybe the last month, 2 months are slightly lackluster to what we saw perhaps at the beginning stages. John Cena, of course, is arguably one of the greatest of all time. Roman Reigns getting the win here will only solidify this character more. I would like to have seen more with the mic work with these two. I enjoyed what they did on SmackDown. Roman was not phased at all, and Roman worked to Roman's strengths, and that's what made this work so well on SmackDown this past week. I hope they get another face-off next week. It would be a lot more fun to see, because I do think it added to their feud, even if, like I said, Seth Rollins wasn't being buried in the Shield, and yes, Dean Ambrose didn't go because of Roman Reigns, but still, those things being thrown in promo, and the Nikki Bella mention as well, you know, it's pretty entertaining stuff. So yeah, I'd like to see more done with that, and I'd like to see 2017 referenced as well. Maybe they could find a way, even if it's scripted, where Roman Reigns could get that revenge on Cena. It would be quite fun to see. Ivan Belknap with our next question now. With the signing of Fuego del Sol and knowing that Maddie Renkovsky, hope I've said that correctly, and Alex Garcia were over with the fans but ultimately buried by AEW, do you think that this is a double standard in AEW? Interesting question, this one. I must admit, I'm not familiar with either of the work. I don't really see a lot of Dark or Dark Elevation, but I'm aware Fuego del Sol. I've seen him on Dynamite previously. I imagine he's been signed to a contract for a while. These other talents, if they have been really over on Dark and Dark Elevation, apologies, I haven't seen it, but maybe they will get their opportunity to get a contract in AEW, regardless of their wins or loss records. Fuego del Sol does not have the best win record, so there is always a potential we could see both of these talents signed at one point to AEW. It would be kind of fun to see, especially as that way then I can judge their work a lot clearer, because right now I haven't seen much of them, and I will be brutally honest with that. Underground of our next question now. Triple Mania was fantastic, and from what I've seen of it, I'd have to agree with you there, Underground. Do you see Triple H maybe considering next year's show with other Lucha Libre themed promotions such as MLW and Azteca Underground? Well, the Forbidden Door works in mysterious ways, hasn't it? We've seen Kenny Omega on the show this year. We've seen Deonna Purrazzo. We've seen, I believe, workers from CMLL actually come in here and you know, take over the show in their own format as well. So there's lots of exciting factors. So maybe we could see more of a working relationship in and amongst with CMLL. Maybe they've got like an own thing of Triple H versus them that could be in the works somewhere further down the line. I don't know. I'm not really a big follower. I usually only tune in for Triple Mania, I must admit, and my CMLL knowledge mainly comes from what I see with Ring of Honor. But to go judging of what they could do with MLW and Aztec Underground certainly would be fun to see. I mean, MLW, there has been rumours of them working with WWE previously. Haven't seen that materialise much as of yet. So, I mean, yeah, I'd be down to see it. I certainly think we'll see more with Triple H working with the likes of AEW, Impact Wrestling, and probably New Japan as well going forward. That I could see going on for definitely for next year's show. Cherry of our next question now. Who would win a professional wrestling match back in 2003? Brendan Fraser or The Rock? Loving those Scorpion King vibes. I've got to go with The Rock, and I can't not back The Rock. So Dwayne Johnson all the way is going to get my vote there. As you can see, if you go and follow Cherry Jerry on Twitter, you can see the link to that. Or go onto my AskSCW page on my Twitter page, get the link to that. You can have a vote yourself and have your say who you think would win. But I'm not going against The Rock. The Rock gets my vote all the way. Last questions this week coming from Elijah. How do I feel about Impact Wrestling lately? Who do I want to see Josh Alexander wrestle for the X Division Championship? Am I a fan of AEW's music lately, and do I think that WWE needs to bring that fire back into the music like AEW now? And who do I want to see repackaged in AEW or WWE like a character change? Fantastic questions there. Let's start with the Impact portion, shall we? I must admit with Impact, I'm enjoying what they're doing of late. I think they are putting a good product out there. It's unfortunate that perhaps not as many people get to see it like they do with AEW, WWE, and NXT, but I do think we're building towards a strong emergent show right now, and I'm looking forward to seeing what it's going to lead to with Bound for Glory coming up, with Christian Cage now winning the Impact World Championship as well. That certainly adds extra spice, and I do think other eyes will come to Impact Wrestling as a result of it, even if Kenny Omega wins that belt back at All Out, as I'm predicting already. So we'll have to wait and see how it's going to lead to, but I think Impact are doing a good job. They're using the Forbidden Door quite well now compared to at the start, where it was more superstars were coming in just winning their championships, although still we're not going to Impact superstar as their world champion. I am seeing the likes of Jay White coming in and not just being dominated. He's losing tag team matches with Chris Bay, so he's not just coming in and being, you know, a guy that's like, I'm from New Japan, therefore I win matches. And other superstars that have been coming in recently haven't been doing that either. El Phantasmo being another one. Josh Alexander, of course, we know he's going to take on Jake something. That's going to take place at, I believe, Emergence is the show that's booked for. That should be an awesome match. For Josh Alexander, I mean, I want to see him go to transition to the World Championship picture. I think that would be pretty awesome to see. But definitely, if you look at the Forbidden Door, there are other great matches that we could see. I want to see Will Ospreay. I think it would be a really cool one when he's back to go in the New Japan ring. That would be awesome to see. Some of those sort of, you know, never open weight superstars would be great. How about Takahashi? Would be awesome to see as well. AEW have got many sort of lightweight superstars which would create great matches for the X Division as well. We mentioned the likes of Jungle Boy, Darby Allin. There's so many great superstars out there that I'd like to see him face at some point further down the line. I'll just give an initial one-word answer for you. Christian Cage, as he is the current Impact World Champion. As for music currently with AEW, I'm starting to really like some of the themes. I mean, I'm singing along with quite a few of them as they come to the ring. I obviously always sing along with Judas. I love Cody's theme with you know, the Kingston, I believe it is. I also really like the themes of Britt Baker, Kenny Omega, plus more. So yeah, I do feel with AEW, their music is getting more on point now that they're getting a bit more polished and have been around for a couple of years. WWE, some of them are very generic, especially with NXT right now. They need to get back to what they were doing before. They used to throw out just great song after great song all the way through back in the day, back in the Attitude Era and back in the Golden Era. And there was a point in the 10s where we were getting that when they were working with some music company to do that, but they've sort of broke with them since. I'd like to do that, see them do it for someone else again and bring back some bangers once again, because we haven't seen it for quite some time. But of course, to say that, WWE still have some great things for some of the current superstars, which probably some of them have been around for a little while now. As for repackaged superstars, I'm quite happy across the board at the minute, but I suppose if I had to pick one from AEW that I could think of off the top of my head, Joey Janela would be one, because I think that Joey, the bad boy gimmick, hasn't been working for him for a while. I'd like to see him freshen things up. Perhaps just go to being more hardcore based, more serious based as a wrestler, going back to being sort of, you know, an edgy heel would be kind of good. Kind of what they did with All In when they started with him. That would be quite nice to see. As for WWE, we know Elias is being repackaged. It's a shame because then we actually have live fans back that he is being repackaged. But yeah, I can't really think of any off the top of my head with WWE right now. I must admit, I'm kind of happy across the board. It's more the way that they are presented on TV rather than the characters themselves. I think if they were booked and presented in a much stronger way rather than 50-50 booking, given actual storylines that match with the characters, I think that that would make a lot stronger WWE programming going forward. But that's all from me anyway. Thank you for watching as always. I hope you've enjoyed this two-part edition of Ask SCW. We've seen the best of inside and of outside. Hope you've enjoyed the video, and please like, share and subscribe if you haven't already. Drop a comment as well. Let me know your opinions about any of the topics that's been discussed on today's video. Keep an eye out through the week as well. More videos will be dropping on SCW, SummerSlam predictions, NXT TakeOver 36 predictions, and as well a good old-fashioned SCW Rewind, the show that you voted for in the community section, which of course is SummerSlam 2013. Going to be joined by Chris from It's My House podcast, and we're going to be going through that retro review together. And that will be live on the channel on Wednesday. But that's all from me anyway. Thank you for watching. Have yourselves a great week, and check out these other videos on the screen right now, including my recent SCW Live Q&A that's available for you to go and check out right now. Go and check it out. All the best. I'll see you next time. Have a good day. You're watching SCW here on YouTube.